All right, it's 6:30. We're going to call the meeting to order for the Charter Township of Bedford Planning Commission meeting. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, roll call please.
Trustee Stacy Greenwood.
Here.
Chairman Mike Stabb.
Here.
Commissioners Claudia Brown.
Here.
Barbara Jones.
Here.
Kevin Bellison.
Here.
Shirley Tuggle. 6 commissioners are here, quorum present.
Let the absence report know that Tawny did make contact to let me know that she was not going to be here. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the September 26, 2023 agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second. Okay.
Motion by Claudia. Second by Jones. Any discussion on the agenda? It is two-sided on that one, guys. All right, seeing no discussion, roll call please.
Trustee Stacy Greenwood.
Yes.
Chairman Mike Stabb.
Yes.
Commissioners Claudia Brown.
Yes.
Barbara Jones. Shirley Tuggle. Yes. Kevin Bellison.
Yes.
And absent Tony Walters. 6 affirmative, quorum present.
All right, next item on the agenda is the approval of the September 7th, 2023 special joint meeting workshop minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support. Any discussion on those minutes? All right, seeing none, roll call please.
Chairman Mike Stabb.
Yes.
Trustee Stacy Greenwood.
Yes.
Commissioners Claudia Brown.
Yes.
Barbara Jones.
Yes.
Shirley Tuggle, yes. Kevin Bellison.
Yes.
Chairman Mike Stabb.
Yes.
6 affirmative, quorum, motion passed.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is our liaison report from Trustee Greenwood.
We don't have anything currently coming up. I know the board is waiting for the master plan to be approved for the PC to start the zoning ordinance and then follow suit with the other ordinances so we can codify everything.
We sure hope we can provide assistance in that this evening. Yes, all right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is the zoning report from our building and zoning administrator, Karen Lewis. We made the agenda before she is no longer with us. To my knowledge and understanding is we've hired a temporary zoning administrator. His name is Cody McCarty. He'll be down here in the office, I believe, starting sometime this week. And he will hopefully, I'm sure it's gonna take him a little while to dig out from underneath the mountain of paperwork down there. But he will, be here on a temporary, I guess, an interim basis.
Yeah.
And then, I'm sure that the board will do interviews, full set of interviews at some point.
Just a small correction, Cody's actually starting today, he started at 5 o'clock, so he's in there now.
Okay, excellent, there you go, burning the midnight oil is at this time of year, excellent. All right, next on the agenda is discussion of new business. We have a public hearing at the request of Mansing LLC for conditional land use amendment / approval and site plan review to construct a greenhouse to grow medical and recreational adult use marijuana under existing licenses on the property address 21736 Bedford Road, Battle Creek, Michigan 49017, parcel number 04/015/00701. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
A motion.
Second.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Okay, would you gentlemen like an opportunity to come up and tell us a little bit about, your application and what, the intent is?
Sure. All of us or one?
It doesn't make a difference. Just one at a time, and if you could please state your name, for the record, I would appreciate it.
Mark Mauer, representing Mansing, DBA Paisley Trees. Just coming before you today to see if we can get an amendment to our special use that's already been approved to add a greenhouse to the property. The current site plan that we have devised would be to put the greenhouse in the front of the property. It would obviously be within the fence line. We do want to do it in stages. The permit that was submitted was for the whole greenhouse, which is about 70,000 square feet. It would be done in stages as we go along, and obviously the fence would be moved. We would stay under all ordinances as far as that is concerned. There will be blackout in it. I know there was some questions in the ordinance about lighting. Lighting cannot be permitted past 7 p.m. and earlier than 7 a.m. So there will be blackout curtain in there in case the lights have to be on after that time, so it will not be visible. Another concern I heard was the odor. And the nice thing about the greenhouse, to give you a little background on myself, I've been in the greenhouse business since I've been about 16 years old. Comstock, and I've worked for about 7 or 8 different greenhouse businesses. The particular one we picked has an 18-foot gutter height. And what that allows us to do is not have to open our vents as often as normal, because it allows that heat to build up away from the plants and not down where it is. So that does give us a little bit of ability to control the smell there. We obviously will construct this with the ordinance and all of the codes that we have to abide by, not only by the township, but also by the state. There is some other odor technology that we will be implementing. It is called the EcoSorb Vapor Phase technology. What it is it puts off a mist that actually counteracts the smell from the cannabis, and that would help in any issues with that. This would allow us to grow year-round instead of just seasonal like we do now. We currently employ full-time about 25 employees. We have about 45 to 50 on site right now with harvest, but this would get us up to about 80 employees, which would obviously all be local people, and it would give them consistent work throughout the year instead of it being just seasonal. That's it. I don't know what else I have unless somebody has questions. We can do that later. I'm not sure, so.
Could you just state the eco,
Yep.
the listing, what was that again?
Yep.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. It's EcoSorb, all one word, EcoSorb, vapor, phase, technology, and it's pretty accessible. It's been used in other greenhouses and stuff like that, so. When we submit for the permit, if we're approved for the special use, I would submit all that paperwork and document to you as well to explain the system, just like I would the blackout and the lights and everything else. So, you'll have all that when we get to that point.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we take public comment?
That's it for myself.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, at this time, we're gonna go ahead and open up for public comment. You have 3 minutes, to discuss, this public comment is gonna only be for the application that we're having the public hearing on, which is the Mansing LLC, outdoor grow. You'll have 3 minutes to speak on that. If you could please state your name, for the record, we would appreciate that. And we will open that time up at 6:41. Does anyone have any comments? Yes, ma'am.
Gail Munster. I live within a half a mile of this farm, and I do know that 2.5 years ago when we had the call-in, meeting, it was told by the owners that they would keep the odor under control. They were gonna plant lavender and trees and whatever, but, either they haven't done anything or it's not working because the odor is very overwhelming. Every year it gets worse. It started in late June this year, and in July, August, and the last month, it's been horrifying. I have to live on 30 acres that gets consumed by this skunk smell, most of the time. And I can't even run a fan in my windows. I can't have my windows open. The smell is horrifying. And if I close my windows, even some nights, it seeps in. And especially, as you get into evening, I live down in the valley near the creeks, so, the air currents bring that odor into my property. And I just don't think I should have to deal with that. So, this will be, I know they're saying they're gonna keep the odor under control, but that's what they said about the outdoor grow. I do understand that there's probably an easier way to control it inside, but I've done some reading on that. So, it's back to, I'm concerned about growing more of this anyway, because if you go to the Michigan State Police and look this up, when we did, medical marijuana use, they went back 3 years and checked these statistics. And then after they went to recreational, they did 3 years of checking the statistics. And the crash status is, there's an increase of 140% of total crashes with marijuana use, 430% increase in injury crashes and using cannabis use, and also 640% increase in property damage accidents. So, I don't think it's really good to have this in our community anyway, but they're legally have a right to be there. But I think as a committee, you have a legal right and you should oversee that this smell is brought under control. There's a lot of neighbors that live a mile or 2 away from that smell it. And there's a lot of people involved. We don't like this odor. I can't go out and enjoy walking in my woods, working in my yard. My life is gardening, and I'm really tired of the smell. And if you guys can't get it under control, then I can sue this company, because I have a right to environmental healthy air.
All right, thank you for those comments. Does anyone else have public comment on the public hearing we have open right now? All right, seeing nobody else? All right, seeing
Wait a
none?
minute, wait a minute.
Yes, sir?
My name's Don. I live somewhat in the area also, probably within a mile. And I just, my question is, if this permit is running, is there gonna be some kind of a regulation to where somebody can check on this to make sure that this Eagle thing that he's talking about, excuse me, I'm a little hoarse right now.
Okay.
This Eagle thing that he's talking about is actually working, so the people in the vicinity knows that something could be done about it if it's not working. Because I understand what the lady over here says. I understand the smell, and it stinks, okay? I don't have anything against marijuana, I don't. But when you live in the area that's being grown, and like she said, you can't open your windows, because it stinks. So I feel if you're gonna do this to them, you people need to somehow have it regulated and checked on to make sure that people like her are being satisfied that you're doing something. That's all I need to say.
Thank you for those comments. Is there any other public comment at this time on this particular public hearing? All right, seeing none, we'll close that at 6:46. All right, next here is we will get into our discussion on this. Mr. Mauer, would you like to come back to the podium and just address any of the issues that you just heard about before we get into our discussion, or I guess offer you an opportunity to, speak on that?
Well, I appreciate it. Mark Mauer again for the record. I do understand the smell, and that's why I brought up that. To the last person's comment in regards to you guys controlling it, there is a statute in the ordinance that talks about coming in and reporting to make sure that it is working, because it is part of your alternate odor control system. Set 5 F in the ordinance. So they do have to review it and have an engineer look at it and keep it up. So it not only the township, but it's also a state thing. The state would require us to make sure that it is running at all times. We've had since the beginning of the year, the state CRA that controls has been in our facility 4 times, possibly 5, just to make sure that everything we are doing right. I will say the outdoor grow is way different than the indoor grow as far as what we're talking about. And to be honest, the indoor grow, the greenhouse, would actually allow us to grow more than the outdoor. And that would allow us to alternate how we grow the outdoor, which actually could reduce the amount of smell that's out there during harvest. Right now, we grow the biggest plants possible because it's our only source of income is this one time a year. So obviously we're out there trying to grow them as big as possible because we have bills to pay and families to feed too. But if we had the greenhouse, it would actually allow us to do it all year long. And so the outdoor plants would not have to be as big for us to harvest, which would reduce some of the smell outdoors. And I will say I was not with the company when it was initially brought to the township for approval. But I do understand that there's probably not been anything to mitigate it. And we will start doing that now that I'm here and in charge, to start helping, like she was saying, planting lilacs or doing something. We definitely will do that from now on. So that's all I have.
So just to clarify then.
Yeah.
You're suggesting that the indoor could possibly, due to the crop cycle, lessen the amount of outdoor smell.
Yeah.
Would that possibly then, so right now I think we heard from someone say, it starts in June or thereabouts and then goes to, I assume probably only a few more weeks or whatever.
Yeah, we're harvesting right now.
Would there be the possibility then that there would be that odor even sooner, like April, May, or is that?
No, I actually think it would be later. So
Okay.
our head of cultivation and my discussion has been that this year we've planted as early as possible, again, because we're trying to make the biggest
Sure.
plants possible so we can get the most revenue, because it has to last us 12 months, right? Once we have the greenhouse going, we wouldn't do that. We would actually plant later in the year so that we wouldn't have plants so big, and we would more do it like, corn, if you will. We would harvest it kind of differently, and it would be done differently. We would do it more for a biomass type material, which goes into some of the oils and liquids and rubs that you see out there, instead of doing it for flour that's consumed in a different manner. So it would allow us to, I believe that the plants would be smaller and not permeate so much stink outside.
Okay. And then just to clarify, currently, right now, there's not really any odor mitigation going on for the current outdoor grow.
There is, I think that we could do better at it,
Okay.
so it's an honest view.
Okay.
You realize that lilacs only last a short period of time.
Mm.
Lavender might be an
Better.
addition to that.
I think I need to get with a landscape specialist probably to see different times of year, because I think you're right. It's just not something my forte, so.
Sure.
I've been in the greenhouse for a long time. I don't know all of the smelly things, as it were.
Right.
But definitely, I will consider that for sure.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's get into our discussion.
Mr. Chair, real quick, I think there were some emails that were received.
Yes, I am sorry. Thank you, Seth. We do have 2 emails here that were submitted, both in opposition. We will make those part of the record, and I have a copy for each commissioner to take with them. I guess we can distribute those right now, actually. All right, everybody has a copy of those, and like I said, we will attach those with the minutes for the record. All right, discussion. Why doesn't everybody pull out their marijuana ordinance? It is gonna be in the back of the binders that everybody has. The part that we are most concerned with for our discussion is gonna be, I think, starting on page number 3, I think. Page 2, actually. All right, shall we start with the site plan? Does anybody have any comments on that?
I'm not seeing appropriate dimensions in the site plan that was given.
Yeah, not even. I don't see the parking or the driveway, am I missing it? The dimensions.
You are not.
So we don't have any comprehensive measurements for internal structure,
Of existing buildings?
size-wise, for the proposed building, but also we're looking at things like setbacks,
I don't see those either.
that we need to be mindful of. So that's my concern with the site plan. on that?
I'm not feeling comfortable about allowing it because we've had a couple of changes in our staffing, for one thing. And I don't know exactly what has been looked at. I'd like to feel a little bit more comfortable about that before we go forward with this.
So, is there parking in here somewhere? Do we, how many?
That is not depicted on, well, so I believe map number 2 there, or both maps have the parking that they currently have approval, I guess, approval for, however you want to say that, under the current use permit that they have. It's right out there in front of that smaller building
Okay.
that already exists as their storage facility. They will obviously have to amend that because we're in, I would assume, consider their greenhouse their principal building.
Right.
So that would adjust, they would have to get in line with, a new parking lot, obviously.
Because they're saying 30 extra employees, so that would be,
Correct.
right.
Yeah, I mean,
A total of 80.
it's pretty clear that, that they've outgrown that first set, which I'm sure was set based off of the only building that was there at that time.
Okay.
So the site plan's missing, parking according to ordinance standards.
Yes.
So the site plan, just keep in mind that.
If you'd like to come up to the podium, you're more than welcome to.
My name's Heath, I'm one of the owners. The greenhouse that we're proposing is within the existing site plan that was already approved by the group. So we're not,
So the
as far as the dimensions,
Sure.
it's not.
parking structure is based on the square footage of the building. So you will adhere to the ordinance standards based on the size of the building. That would determine the number of parking spaces that you need.
Okay.
And that would have to be included in your site plan.
Okay. It's been oversight by our architect, Cody Newman. I'll have it revised immediately.
Well, we're missing several things as far as, the ordinance section 14.21 site plan review. We're missing quite a few things there. Not just the parking, the dimensions of the buildings in relation to the setbacks.
The dimensions of the existing buildings, which we,
Both
has our entire site plans, everything came through Bedford, so.
Right, but you're proposing a change, so we need to see on the
Dimensions.
site plan dimensionally,
Okay.
both your proposed building and all current existing buildings. And that's taken directly from the site plan review standards.
I guess when we were working, the gentleman who's no longer here, was under the impression he already had everything, so we literally just sent the amendments
Sure.
and changes to, and we still had full sets of plans for everything that was original.
We apologize for that.
Yeah, and I understand that.
And we've been
Yeah,
trying to do this
we
since
really
May.
do.
Right, and we've had, obviously, this will be my 4th zoning official in less than 9 months in there, so I understand your frustration with
Yeah.
that, so.
We're frustrated as well.
I don't know what plans you're looking at, but I've submitted 4 different site plans to the township in the last 6 months. Based on things that they told me we needed to do. Met with Mark Hires and Karen, and that's when they wanted the one page that just showed where it sat. So I don't know which one you're looking at, I apologize. But I have the emails that I sent to both Jason, that was the latest one.
Yeah.
Because the full site plan that had the old building and everything had already been submitted to Jason in triplicate, printed out, cost us $220, submitted to him. Karen couldn't find them when she came in, so I reprinted them, gave them to her. And then she and Mark, when we met, remember, wanted to just see where the full thing would lay. You were there as well, Mike. And that's why we did this one page, because in the beginning, Jason said, just do it as you build it. And we had talked about, no, we wanted the whole thing. So that's why you have what you have in front of you. But there was plans that superseded that we had already submitted, that had the parking, not the new parking, because we didn't do that, I agree with you. But it had the
Cody
parking
based our
and
parking
the
on-
building plans and all that stuff, which actually it is within a permit right now because we're expanding the mart. So it It has to be in the township, because we've already submitted it to, for approval.
Alright, well, let me just clarify. So, obviously,
It has to be in the township, because we've already submitted it to, for approval.
alright, well, let me just clarify. So, obviously, because I am familiar with it, so the plans that have been proposed, that you got your building permit on, have just the structure, your storage structure with your addition, okay? The issue here is that anytime we have an application, we require in our ordinance, again, section 1421, that you provide us with a site plan that has current buildings and proposed buildings and really on one piece of paper with those measurements and setbacks, distance between, dimensions of the buildings, all of those things. And we require those things so that you're in line with the ordinance.
Absolutely.
But those plans had that.
That's exactly what was submitted.
The only thing that it only had a quarter of the greenhouse, because Jason had said to us, do this in steps and get approval as you go. And that was when you, I, Mark, and Karen talked, and we decided that we just needed to add the full so that you would see where it sat fully on the property.
Was the full site plan submitted?
Yeah. And to Mark, I delivered 3 full copies, which I actually, I shouldn't say to Mark, but Mark said he wanted the copies of the greenhouse, which are signed by an engineer. It's a DeCluitt greenhouse. And I submitted all those. There was 3 documents that had everything in the greenhouse.
Okay, well,
Structure-wise, size.
the planning commission was not given those documents,
Okay.
and I'm sorry for the confusion. If they exist, I'm sure they're in the office, and we will find them. But this is what we were given by the zoning coordinator, okay? And this is what we have to work off of, and this does not meet the requirements. Okay, I think we can all agree on that, okay? So we are going through the process here, and we are gonna, let you know what we need from you. Moving
And we need to
forward.
draw the parking lot that we already have, because initially our parking was designed to meet the requirements of employees. And we've already added an entire new parking lot outside the fence, over 50 parking spots, so, wasn't official, it's just gravel.
Sure, right,
Gravel
but I mean,
parking lot.
but you
But
understand
that
that's why we
needs to
need it on
That needs to be
on the site plan.
drawing as well.
I mean,
No, appreciate it.
I do know that Karen asked for a digitized site plan, and this is what was given to her and then given to me for our planning commission packet. So, we obviously have some confusion there, and if they're here and they exist, it should be no problem. But what the planning commission has to go off of right now doesn't meet our
Certainly
requirements.
not. No. I can understand that completely.
All right, thank you.
May I ask a question at this point?
Oh, I wanted to add one more thing. I just learned about the lavender, and I apologize. So we will start planting lavender right away.
No, ma'am, we don't take any more public comment. You will have an opportunity at the end of the meeting if you wish to speak on it any further. Okay. Moving on. So we have a insufficient or not complete site plan, essentially is what we have to look at. There is some question as to whether or not there's actually a full one somewhere, but for this case, I mean, they don't meet the standards in section 1421 of what we've been given to look at. We should definitely consider getting a list together here of items that, they need to have in there. So we have parking, the setbacks, drawings with full setbacks.
Yard depth and lot lines.
Yep.
Measurements. Sorry, guys. What did you say, the driveway?
Driveway.
Yeah.
Floor space.
Yep, floor space.
Floor space.
I mean, so I'm just going to, there's a lot of things that weren't referenced here, so we're gonna reference section 1421 of the site plan review, and we will make a copy of those standards available in the minutes, and that will suffice, in my opinion, of what we need to get them.
Were there additional items that you needed to reference?
I don't think so. So I can go down the whole thing here,
I was
actually.
just checking.
I guess, why don't I just do that? Okay. So we need the applicant's name and address on the applicant's form, which we have a copy of. We need the common description of the property, which we also have, that. We're gonna need the dimensions of the land, width, length, and acreage, existing zoning and zoning of adjacent properties, proposed use of the land. We also require the name, address, city, and phone number of the firm or individual who prepared the site plan. Name and address of the applicant if not the legal owner, that's already covered. Let's see, site plan, drawing, and illustrations fully dimensionized. Location of map at scale of all existing and proposed structures and uses. All aisleways, driveway, parking areas, include the number of spaces in each. Screening and or protective walls. Principal and accessory buildings need to be on that drawing. Locations of existing or proposed right-of-way, widths of all abutting streets, alleys, and easements. That really doesn't apply here.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take any more of the committee's time. I just wondered if there was
No, you're
anything,
fine. No, you're
anything
fine.
that you knew that we were also missing. So
That's okay.
it's
We have a process.
not on our behalf. I'm just,
That's okay.
Apologize.
We're gonna go through the process. It's good practice for us. The floor plan. Density calculations. Existing buildings or improvements on the site and all adjacent to the site within 100 feet. The landscape plan, if there is one. Loading and unloading area, a lot of that will be depicted on your plan with the proposed buildings that are already there. All right.
Also sufficient, space for fire trucks to enter and turn around.
That would be depicted with the parking lot and the driveways.
Well, yeah, as long as it's not full parking. But, another thing I just wanted to clarify,
Yep.
security shall,
Okay, let's finish up with the site plan. And then.
okay.
Does anyone have any further comments on the site plan? Any other concerns or lack thereof that I did not mention for the record? Okay. So let's get in, I guess. So we also have a copy of your operations plan that was submitted as well. And in regards to the actual marijuana ordinance itself, we did not see a reference to the security cameras or security plan in general, which is outlined in number 6 in the ordinance. So we would like to see what that looks like, your security plan. Also, there is a residency requirement in the agricultural district of the property, unless there is 24-hour, 7-day-a-week staff security presence on the property.
we have that.
Okay, what I'm saying is that we did not get that in your operations plan or in the site plan.
Okay.
And we would like to see that depicted as well.
Is there any way I could look at that?
Say again?
Is there any way I could look at that?
The marijuana ordinance itself?
No, the booklet I gave you that has our operation agreement in it.
Sure.
Please. This security plan, obviously, the state's very rigorous, goes without saying that it would be
No, I'm sure it does. The issue here,
100%.
again, is that we were not given a copy of it. Also.
lots of cameras.
Also, Mr. Mauer touched on the need for the, I guess, darkening shades in your site plan of the greenhouse. We would like to see that depicted, what that's gonna look like, so that you are in compliance with the lighting in the marijuana ordinance.
Yep.
Yeah, can I just point something out real quick?
Sure.
Thank you. Sorry. I don't know how it was missing in there. I will get you the security, stuff. In that meeting that we had, you, Mark, I, and Karen, we had talked about not submitting the full plans as in electrical, plumbing, shade curtain, lighting, that type of thing, because that was more when the permit came. I have no problem providing you with that information, I just didn't know that I had to.
Okay.
The idea is that if we have to spend, prior to knowing if we're even allowed to build it.
Right, I understand your concerns,
Yeah.
but this is a special land use application. So it is within the planning commission's purview to request these documents to make sure that we approve something that is in line with the criteria in both the zoning ordinance and the marijuana ordinance specifically.
So you're gonna be looking at section 4 in the marijuana zoning ordinance to reference that, to bring
Okay.
the PC coming forward?
Yeah, I guess I understood it as if it was amending our special use permit, and I understand the full bounty of the original venture that we invested in, so I understand that it's under the same exact stipulations.
So
Is
they have
anybody,
24-hour staffing?
We have 24-hour security,
Security.
yes.
the bottom line here is that we need to see what your security plan looks like to make sure it's in compliance with the ordinance.
Okay.
Is there anything else that we need to add that they don't have for the record? And we will get you a list of all of this stuff.
Well, I'm taking notes.
But how would our original,
This is an application to
no, never
amend the
mind, never
permit.
mind, I'm just saying it's an existing farm, we already
Right, I
have
understand what you're
24-hour
saying.
security that was already submitted in our original special use plan. That's why I very much saw this as an amendment to our special use
Right,
permit, which is
anytime-
just growing pot
anytime-
under glass instead
Sir,
of
sir.
outdoors.
Anytime that you amend and put in an application.
I have to
amendment on
resubmit
a- on a
everything that's already
piece-
been
Look, I'm
submitted.
not gonna argue with you.
No, I'm agreeing with you, I have to resubmit everything that's already been submitted, I
That's correct.
understand now, I understand now, completely.
Is there anything else in the ordinance itself that they have not provided us? They said that they're gonna, provide us the plans for the order mitigation as well.
We don't have that. We don't have a copy of that, right?
Correct, we do not have a copy
So
of
we don't
that.
have that either. So we don't have, that's why I think we're missing a lot.
Mike, I have one question for you.
Yeah.
I talked to Seth today, the attorney, for quite a bit, and there was a question asked at our table when we had the conversation
Mhm.
about if it was considered indoor or outdoor. He still didn't have that answer for me. So
Okay.
I'm only asking that because if, depending on which way township views it, there's different requirements for
Yes.
that, so that's.
We view that greenhouse as an indoor grow.
Thank you.
You will have to,
Because he didn't have the answer today when we talked, so.
I looked it up, I tried to call you back, and
Okay.
I believe this morning we'll touch base, but I did discuss that with the commission.
Thank you, thank you.
so you will have to be in compliance with the marijuana ordinance and the requirements of an indoor grow for that facility.
Okay.
All right, at this point, I do not think that we need any more discussion on this.
Can I follow with a
Yes.
question?
Yes, you absolutely can.
In reviewing your operational plan, it appears as if you have the intent to include processing.
We do not. We do not.
You do not.
No, there was we had sectioned out 2 acres that had 2 houses on it, that we were talking about maybe trying to rezone and doing that, and then talking with Mark and Mike, and Mark, and Karen, we pursued other avenues at this point, so there is no, pursuit of processing on the property.
So I guess, I think what trustee Greenwood was getting at is that, when you submit your amended operations plan, you should not have that in there.
Take that in.
Because we can't approve something that suggests a non-conforming use, because you're not zoned for that out there.
Correct.
Is there any more discussion that needs to happen here?
In the acquirement of additional facilities for provisioning centers, you're talking about outside of that parcel?
Correct,
Okay.
correct, correct.
All right, I think at this point, we should entertain a motion to continue the public hearing to another time, to allow them the opportunity to get their full site plan submitted. So moved.
So can I just to clarify and
Yep.
amend that motion?
Yep.
Motion to table to the next planning commission meeting on October 25th at 6:30 in the Bedford Township Hall with additional materials provided. Is that correct?
Yes, I do believe that is the next week.
So it's Tuesday, 24th.
26, it says.
26th? I'm sorry.
Says on the back of it.
The 24th.
Says the 24th.
Make sure that's enough time to get what they can.
Do you gentlemen have a problem with that?
No, I'll have the stuff to you by the end of the week.
Yeah.
It sounds like a couple different zoning administrators told you a couple different things about site plans.
Yes.
So if they submit the final plans and, we have no objections, at least with the site plan and everything else, going through, make sure it's complete, so we don't run into this issue again.
Okay.
If that's acceptable to the applicant.
Okay, could you say that again, Seth?
It sounds like there were two zoning administrators that were telling you different things, okay, between Jason Ugeti and Karen.
Yeah.
About what you're submitting. So once the materials are provided in the township, I'm willing to, meet with you, especially with the site plan, make sure everything, and I know they got a new zoning administrator, and he'll do that too, but because he's new, whether it's, the township wants to make sure it's a complete application, so we're not running into this issue.
How soon? To meet that October 25th? I mean, it's reasonable that we could have everything to you this week.
So if you're gonna get, right, that's why I asked,
I think
because I don't know how long it take your architect, to revise the plans, but, I could meet with you next week, probably next Wednesday, actually, something about this area, if that works.
Yep, no problem.
The issue is that when we submitted back to Bugatti, that was before we got denied by the township for the processing and other things, so they're still in that original plan set, but we should be able to get it very quickly.
Okay.
Okay, so for the record, I just want to clarify the motion. So we're moving to table this public hearing until our next meeting, which is October 24th at 6:30 PM here at the Township Hall, pending the other documents being submitted. Clarification.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes.
Did the original site plan contain this building, this greenhouse, or no?
So The original site plan did not.
Okay.
When I initially submitted it with Jason, because we were doing it in phases, he told me, I can't give you occupancy if you show me the whole thing, so just show me the quarter you're gonna build first, and then we'll go back to the committee as we add. So the original plan that has all of the measurements on it, that is a 32-page, 3-foot plan, I gave 3 copies to Jason, shows all of the numbers on it, and had a quarter that we were gonna build first.
First year.
And that has both it's imperative that it has both buildings on there.
Yes, it has both buildings. It actually had the addition as well that's being built right now that's
Right.
been approved for the permit. All that was on there, yes.
Alright. Okay. Do you guys want me to read the motion one more time, or are we all set to vote?
Did we get a second?
So,
They made
Stacy,
the motion to the amendment.
Friendly and
okay, then we need a second. The friendly, original, Kevin made that, she made a friendly amendment, so now we need a second. Okay, Bobby.
Okay, roll call, please.
This is to table it.
Yeah, so the motion the actual motion will be table this public hearing to our next, to continue the public hearing until October 24th at 6:30 PM here at the Township Hall, pending further document submission by the applicant.
Trustee Stacy Greenman,
Yes.
Chairman Mike Staff,
Yes.
Commissioners Claudia Brown,
Yes.
Barbara Jones,
Yes.
Kevin Donaldson,
Yes.
Shirley Tuttle, yes. Affirmative 6, and the motion is approved.
All right, next item on the agenda, even though I can't find my agenda right now, is the master plan public hearing. Do I have a motion to open that?
I'll motion.
One second.
Maya and then okay. First thing we'll do is we will have public comment on the master plan only at this time. Again, same rules apply. You have 3 minutes if you wish to comment on the master plan only itself. We will open that up at
The master person.
7:22. Is there any public comment on the master plan itself? We did receive one correspondence in regards to the master plan in writing, which I will go ahead and distribute to the commissioners right now. Give everyone a second. Let's read this. Holly, can you hand this over to Chris? While you have it. Thank you. The nature of that public public comment obviously is pertaining to the future land use map. And concerns over how we have it zoned over on Custer Drive. when we get to that point. All right, seeing no other public comment on the master plan, we'll close that at 7:24. All right, discussion on the master plan. Commissioners, it's been a long haul here to get us this far. Does anybody have anything that they would like to clarify, bring up in relation to the master plan itself? And we'll get into the future land use map in just a second. No discussion as far as the text or, you know, any comments or questions regarding the master plan itself. It is the same draft that we sent over for board approval for distribution. I think there were 2 changes in there that came from the treasurer. They were just minor word changes, if I remember correctly. Was not anything major, I guess. Okay, seeing no discussion on that, let's go ahead and deal with the future land use map. Everybody go ahead and pull that one out. Yes. Yeah.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Corey, lead us away.
Yes, well, for those in the room that I haven't met, my name is Chris Corey. I'm with McKenna. Raphael Kaysen has left our firm to become planning director in Clinton County, so I'll be taking this process over the finish line. As the commission knows, we did have written public comment from Mr. Chris Gordon, who owns property at 3201 Michigan Avenue, which is approximately the corner of Michigan and Custer. He also, I don't know if he owns or he's interested in buying 2 other parcels, which would take his land all the way over to Stilson Boulevard. That area, we currently have a 100-foot strip of mixed use along Michigan Avenue to support businesses in that corridor, as well as our enterprise category, which is a commercial/industrial category running down Custer Drive to the river. Mr. Gordon's request is that we deepen the mixed-use district from 100 feet back to at least 300, potentially slightly beyond, though we don't think he's here tonight to discuss the specifics. That would allow him to create a multi-tenant commercial development in the area, which is what he's looking to do, as noted in his letter. He just wants more depth to the mixed-use district, and he wants the mixed-use district done all the way over to Stilson Boulevard to give him enough space for that development. From a land use planning perspective, McKenna has no objection to that alteration. Obviously, he would need to come in front of this body and the board for a rezoning, a site plan, potentially special use permits, potentially altering the boundary lines of the parcels. There are a lot of steps after this, but I have no objection to altering the future land use map to at least allow him to come in the door and start that process. Without the alteration, some of the areas he has designated potentially for commercial would be called out as residential on this map. And given that this is such a brand new master plan, we wouldn't recommend that you then go and change the zoning to commercial when you just said it should be residential. So by pushing that mixed use category back from 100 feet to 300 feet, you create enough space for commercial zoning for him to be able to execute his plan.
And that was just that corridor there from Custer Drive to what?
To Stilson.
Stilson?
Yeah, and not beyond. On both sides of this, there are residential neighborhoods, 1 block over from Custer, 1 block over from Stilson. So I'm not concerned about the mixed use or commercial area growing east or west because of the existing development map.
Okay. And then while we're on the topic of that area, I did notice that we have the enterprise mainly on what is the east side of that street up to Michigan Avenue. We do have a small section down there that on the west side, south, that is enterprise. We did not carry that up on the all the way Michigan Avenue. And I didn't know if there was a reason for that.
That's residential.
It is, under our current zoning map, that parcel there, which is the pizza parlor parcel basically, is zoned commercial right now.
Yep.
So I didn't know if we just forgot to color that, or if there was a specific reason that we chose to not incorporate that in the enterprise zone.
So the first 100 feet of it along Michigan Avenue are categorized as mixed use.
Okay.
Which would include the building. I have no objection to moving that to the actual parcel line, which would be a whole lot further south. The next parcel south on Custer, is a very wide but very shallow parcel. And I don't think that parcel would be appropriate for industrial or even necessarily commercial development, because it is so shallow, you're ending up in residential backyards very quickly.
Okay, so the thinking there is that wouldn't meet the.
I don't think it could be developed industrially.
Okay.
It could be subdivided into parcels and probably houses could be built on it, that's why it's called industrial.
Okay, all right. I was just looking for the clarity, it was just something that I noticed when we were looking at the comments from that.
To your point, Mr. Chair, enterprise on this map basically means commercial or industrial. Mixed use basically means commercial or residential. And if we are saying that the west side of Custer Drive really can't be developed as industrial, maybe we should reconsider whether the east side of Custer Drive, immediately across the street, should be developed as industrial. We could change that category to mixed use, so it could be commercial, but it's not going to be as intensive as the industrial potential uses. And it could be potentially residential if that was more appropriate. Does everyone understand what I'm talking about?
Yes, along the corner of Custer.
Yeah.
And then as you get further down to the river, I think the enterprise becomes appropriate, heading towards the industrial area on the far side of the river and into the city of Battle Creek.
Okay. Anybody have a comment on that? I guess proposed change. So first, I think we're all in agreement just to button up we're basically going to extend the mixed use an extra 150 feet on basically what is that one block from Custer Drive to Stilson. We're all in agreement with?
Changes, so you're changing it to 3.
Correct. Okay. And we're all in agreement with that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Next then will be, I guess, does anybody have a comment, or are there comments on what Mr. Corey has just said there about that enterprise zone down there being appropriate?
By the river?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
I would say it's appropriate. It has an appropriate cutoff, so we're not running into a floodplain.
Correct.
But it's certainly running into an industrial area, which I would see as appropriate for an extension.
Okay. So we would then, does anybody else have any thoughts on that? I think, Mr. Corey, we're gonna go ahead and leave that the way it is.
Okay. So just the 300 feet, go from 100 feet to 300 feet for mixed use along Michigan, and that's it. No
Correct.
changes. Understood.
And that, does anybody else have any other concerns over any of the other, zoning future land use stuff that we have on the map here?
I do. Not necessarily a concern. I do, you guys are developing 2 additional districts from what was originally commercial to now mixed use. What's the other one?
Enterprise?
Enterprise. So when you look at enterprise, you're looking at additional industrial features on that, correct?
Yes. This will be discussed in more detail when we start working on the zoning ordinance.
Okay, but as far as the future land use map, that shows up butting up to the village. I think we're looking at from Kirby two.
Okay.
Yes.
So, trustee Greenwood is bringing to our attention whether or not we have that correctly labeled there. The enterprise zone that goes from Kirby all the way up into the village there.
Yep, I see it.
And I don't see any justifiable reason to remove the two parcels without it being considered exclusionary.
I think that's an interesting point. One of the parcels, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is one of the parcels, the parcel you were discussing earlier.
Correct.
So there's a planning philosophy that streets are uniters, not dividers, right? People without the front door across the street. So I think there's good logic to the idea that those three parcels that are currently RRAOS, as you head into the village, should be enterprise. The only concern I have is the large parcel that does contain the marijuana grow right now goes a long way to the east. And if we plan that for the whole thing for enterprise, then what we're basically saying is we want an industrial park there. We want someone to build a private road and put in industrial all the way back there. And I'm not sure that that's appropriate. However, I would definitely support some amount of frontage being designated as enterprise, similar to what we've done with mixed use along Michigan Avenue. Though it would need to be significantly bigger than the 100 feet we have along Michigan. Maybe an appropriate distance would actually be the depth of that northernmost parcel, if you're following me. And then basically drawing a straight line south, which I think comes right about to where the large parcel kind of jogs.
Yep.
Are we all, really technical term there, but if we were to draw the line there and have enterprise to the west and RRAOS to the east, we create some potentially developable industrial parcels to create jobs along M37 without pushing an industrial park well back into an agricultural and residential area. So I would support that change if that's.
So I guess I have two concerns there. So I mean, do we really want to have industrial type growth up there in the village? Period. Like there's no infrastructure there, at all. I mean, it's one thing for us to have the enterprise zone down by Custer, because obviously there's not water and utilities there currently, but it's a lot closer to get it there than it would be way up there. My other concern is that obviously a lot of that, I mean, yes, those parcels are a little bit bigger, obviously, but I mean, that is a pretty rural residential area. I would be hesitant or have some concerns about trying to encourage development in there. I think extending the mixed use into the north of the village makes sense, because there's a lot of mixed use basically going on now. I mean, there's really nothing once you get south of the village other than Battle Creek Glass that would be considered commercial. Do you have thoughts on just defaulting that back to rural residential and doing away with the enterprise?
I don't have an objection to that. There's nothing there now that is industrial.
Right.
The thought process behind that was to find a place in the township where there could be expansion of job creation.
Right.
But it is, I think importantly, there's no intent to zone that enterprise in the coming zoning ordinance. It would be a series of rezonings taken up by property owners.
Right.
So there's nothing there now, there's nothing there imminently. If we don't think there's a good reason to have it planned as something long-term, then there's no reason to have it at all.
What are the commissioner's thoughts on that?
Yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on that? So basically what we're talking about doing is that whole section there from Kirby up to where the village starts.
Where it's pink.
Yeah, where it's pink, it's enterprise now, we would default that back to rural residential agricultural open space.
I would agree. I would agree with that. Absolutely.
Sure.
I agree.
Okay. Trustee Greenwood?
Make that change. There is also on page 51 of the plan, a reference to that stretch of M37 that will remove.
Okay.
It basically says that stretch of M37 is enterprise. It's a we'll move that, so it's consistent with the map.
Okay. What page did you say that was on?
It's on page 51.
If someone could just confirm that to make sure that,
Yes.
not that I don't trust that you're all over it, for the motion's sake.
Yes, for removal of language along the M37 corridor. Correct?
Yes, so I guess if you'd like me to read how I think the paragraph should read. So currently it says, the purpose of the enterprise district is to allow for combination of industrial, commercial and light industrial uses along the M37 corridor between R Drive North and South Street. I would remove along the M37 corridor between R Drive North and South Street. It just says light industrial uses, period. This area is envisioned as both a regional and local economic engine, allowing for warehousing and logistics, as well as serving as a transitional zone leading into Bedford Village. I would cut as well as serving as a traditional transitional zone leading into Bedford Village, and replace that with as well as retail and office uses. So then the language becomes much more broadly applicable, and is not related to one specific use.
Any comments on that proposed change in that language? All right, is there any other discussion on the master plan itself? Any other concerns over the future land use map? We don't have any.
I don't know if I can try to get you guys open public back up or not, or come out of that.
I mean, technically we don't, Mr. Gordon, but you did submit your comments. If you wanted to add to them quickly, I would allow that.
Okay. Stand up
Yes,
there.
if you would, please.
So, I just, heard you say, extending it 300 feet or so and kind of leaving it at that. I guess my concern with that is, right, so if I hypothetically, get somebody or be myself over time, buy additional land in the back half of that, do I have to switch to a PUD development at some point to get the specific uses that I'm trying to get in that particular area? Or am I stuck with just the enterprise zoning in the rear to try to accommodate, for say hypothetically, trying to get a grocery store of some sort out this way? And I guess that's kind of my biggest concern, because that is probably going to be what would be on the back half, because you have outlots and you have, from what would be the center of that development. So.
Is that the gist of your concerns?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, to a certain extent, I'm just concerned with the rear of the parcel associated with the front.
Okay.
The front, of course, trying to sell to a C-store per se on the corner,
Right.
which is a gas station, and then go from there on the rest of it. So, obviously, I'm figuring this out as I go, but I do have people, drawing this up and figuring out as well. So, and they more or less have concerns for the rear of the parcel at some point making sense with the front of the parcel. I just don't want to get stuck with, enterprise or industrial use in the rear and have issues when that time comes up. So I don't know if that,
So, I have a question for Mr. Gordon, I guess. So what's the timeline?
on this whole situation.
Yeah.
So right now, this first part of land I already own, so it's the 13 acres I own currently right now. So my focus is mainly on that currently, right? But as soon as I kind of get some traction on the C-store situation, I'm planning on going to the neighbor adjacent, which will carry me back all the way to the river as far as that parcel itself. But as things kind of go along, it's going to develop over time. It's not going to be overnight, obviously, so I kind of know that. But ultimately, I think if anything, that's kind of the area where we can get something from a commercial standpoint at that corner. It's just a lot of land, specifically, and instead of just going on a level part,
many people get off work over in the, industrial park in Battle Creek and, you know, come down Custer Avenue and shift off traffic to Richland or, you know, down the other way of Michigan Avenue to Level Park. So that's just my biggest concern with the situation, is hopefully getting something in this area outside of the, utility issue and everything else that
Sure.
is going on. So, anyway.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gordon.
So obviously my.
Go ahead, Chris.
Sorry. My recommendation would be to basically continue to coordinate with Mr. Gordon as we move through the zoning ordinance process. Because he's a landowner who's made a specific request of what he wants from a land use perspective. It's not inconsistent with the overall vision of the plan. As we move forward with the zoning ordinance, I think we should keep in mind things like he's got some land that we've designated as enterprise that might want to put a grocery store on, and that means the grocery store should probably be permitted in that zoning district as we draft the zoning ordinance. Right? Okay. Which is not in itself an approval, but is he continues to keep the door open for Mr. Gordon is trying to do in this area. I think if we keep that in mind as we keep moving to move forward, I think we'll have a positive outcome. And in the meantime, I think the amendment to the future land use map clarifies that your initial development of the convenience store on the corner is consistent with the future land use map. So that's clear, I think, and then we'll keep moving with the rest of any potential development, and it's just we continue to keep in touch, and the township will continue to coordinate with these ongoing processes. It's a little hard to give a clear answer right now because everything's in flux.
Correct.
Right? Master plan isn't adopted yet. Zoning ordinance is just starting. You could try to develop. You could develop under the current zoning ordinance.
Yeah. So
that's why I asked about the timeline.
So sorry about that, right? Because I had submitted a rezone request, right? And that also is what concerns me here because, yeah, I move pretty quick. I'm not gonna hold you up here. Like I plan on clearing out that lot starting in pretty much a week and going from there. So I know the commercial corridor, you know, as far as it's, you know, in the future land use, it was potentially commercial. So I'm gonna have that issue when I go to rezoning to rezone to commercial right now underneath the guise of commercial so that I can move forward with what I'm trying to accomplish in the next 8 months on that property on the corner. So that's kind of just, I know all this is going on. I know I kind of came in left field here, so I'm just.
So just to clarify, is he asking about non-conforming use issues? Is that what you're?
I mean, I think he kind of is, but he's kind of not. So I think it would be beneficial here, Chris, if you just, you know, kind of remind us of the process of, you know, they have to, an applicant would have to come, they would have to be rezoned. You know, I mean, he has concerns, it sounds like, about a parcel that, you know, he doesn't own, but he potentially one day would like to.
Yes.
An applicant can always come in and ask to be rezoned.
That is true. The best practice is to be consistent with your master plan and
right.
zonings. Now, because we've come up with this master plan that has these categories like mixed use and enterprise that are different than your current zoning categories. And the new zoning ordinance is going to be designed to match these more closely. But there are only so many land uses out there, right? And when we say mixed use along Michigan Avenue, commercial and retail is included in that. So if he comes in and he wants to rezone to commercial before we finish the new zoning ordinance, this master plan is not an impediment to him being rezoned to commercial. Right. That's not to say that when you factor everything in that you'll approve it, you might, but this master plan is not an impediment. That rezoning would be consistent with this master plan. I think, let's just make that clear.
Gotcha. That works out.
And I think that we are going to have to think in this interim period while we're working on the zoning ordinance and we have this master plan and the old zoning ordinance, how things work together a little bit. And we're going to have to make those calls. So has a public hearing been scheduled on that rezoning request yet?
I have no clue.
No. Up until the other day, I didn't even know there was one in the hopper. So, So I would think, I guess, just for best practice here,
Yeah.
keep in touch. Like I said, we just did hire a temporary person, and, you know, we can certainly help get you the answers to your questions that you have. But I do not see this future land use map being an impediment to what hypothetically you're trying to do. That does not mean that you would get approval, obviously, but I mean, no matter what, you're gonna have to come before us to get a rezone anyway, so.
Correct.
I think we've addressed those concerns with changing the 300 feet and then keeping the enterprise zone where it is currently. Is there any further discussion on that topic or any other? All right, do I have a motion for recommended approval with those changes? We'll want to list those changes in the motion.
I'll motion.
Okay.
Can you clarify the specific on the motion?
Yes, I can. So the motion will be to recommend approval of, to recommend to the board approval of the master plans with the 3 changes that we have listed here. And that's going to be on the future land use map. We're going to change the 150-foot setback to 300 foot for mixed use between Custer to Stilson. We are going to change the enterprise zone from Kirby to just south in the village. We're going to default that back to rural residential agricultural open space. And then we are going to adjust the language on page 51 regarding the M37 corridor, as Mr. Corey outlined.
I'll support. Second.
All right.
Is that unanimous for support?
Yep. Roll call on that?
Chairman Mike Stack,
Yes.
trustee Stacy Greenwood,
Yes.
commissioners Barbara Jones,
Yes.
Claudia Brown,
Yes.
Kevin Dallison,
Yes.
and Shirley Tuggle is a yes. 6 yeses, motion is approved.
Congratulations, everybody. Okay, next on the agenda, discussion of old business, zoning ordinance. In your guys' book there is the first draft of the zoning ordinance. We will discuss that starting at our next meeting in October. It's gonna be, I think it's the thing that's in the front actually. It's tab. We're going to probably divide this into 4 sections. Mr. Corey, if you wanted to just kind of touch on that, what the expectation of the process is, and what kind of what we've talked about breaking it up, so the other commissioners can kind of have an idea of where to start.
Yep. So this process is going to be a little bit different than the master plan in that we really need to make sure that we're happy with the very specific language. The master plan is broad concepts. The zoning ordinance is specific and immediate, right? It's the law, or will be. So we're going to have 4 discussions on this document. We're breaking up approximately along the lines of the districts and the permitted uses in each district, which actually is not that many pages because there's a chart in there that lists the land uses and districts that they're in. And those land uses should all be defined. There's a chapter that runs through each land use, gives it a definition, and it gives it specific rules. In some cases, there are no specific rules because it's very basic land use, like retail, something like that. In other cases, they're very lengthy because it's something like solar, right? So you can look at this. So basically, next time, those two chapters. Then we'll have a discussion on dimensional requirements, setbacks, etc. That's another chart. Again, not too many pages there. Following that, a discussion of site design aspects, including parking, landscaping, lighting, etc. And then following that, we'll have a discussion of processes. I actually don't anticipate the processes are going to be too radically different than what you do now. We discussed in the training session earlier this month, the state requirements for these processes. It's not like you can be too super different than what you do now. But I do want to go through the way those things are described in the ordinance. I think you guys experienced earlier today, or your practice has been to go through those site plan requirements, right? So we want to make sure that what we have in the new ordinance is still meeting the needs in that regard. It's not before. Following that, I would like to get informal feedback from the board, who ultimately have to adopt this. And I'd like to have that happen either through a joint meeting, or we can have it just distributed to them for their written comments or something like that. But I think that we should go to the board so we can get their comments before you hold a formal public hearing. That way, when you get the formal public hearing, you know that there aren't landmines that the board has concerns about, right? We will address them. Then we'll have a formal public hearing, and then the ordinance will be moved to the board for their consideration for ordinance adoption. There is not a 63-day comment period for the zoning ordinance. There is just the 15-day public hearing notice that is required. That's the process outlined right now. If we run into difficulty, lack of consensus, concerns from the public, anything like that, we may have to pause, dive into some topic in an extra meeting or something like that. But that's how we've laid out the process for now.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry. And then the next thing I was going to talk about is the actual calendar, because you guys meet on the 4th Tuesday of the month, right?
Mm-hmm.
So as we did the year, you start in the holidays.
Yep.
So
we do not meet in December.
Okay.
That's our break, one of our breaks that we have. Not that we couldn't have a special meeting, right? But we all know how we feel about special meetings.
And your November meeting would be the Tuesday before Thanksgiving?
Actually, the November meeting, I believe, is the week before that. I want to say it's either the 5th.
This is the 14th.
The 14th? Okay, yeah. Of November.
Yep.
So we do meet in November, it's just a week earlier because of the holiday. So what I'm gathering from you is you're thinking one meeting per segment?
Basically, yes.
Okay.
And approximately a month apart, although I guess we could skip December, just do January. We could do October, November, January, February.
Okay.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay. And that would fit in with the timeline and the contract that we kind of have with us, obviously?
Yes.
Okay. And then as far as either a joint meeting or, I mean, would you rather us send that over for informal at the completion of each section, informal board written comment?
If the board's comfortable with that, then sure, because it'll involve the board in the process without having to have a bunch of extra meetings. And if the board's comfortable with that.
Yeah, trustee Greenwood, I guess.
You're functionally assigning the homework.
I mean, it would default more to how you feel, because then you would take away the group perspective and rely on the chair to clear up any questions that board members may have.
At a board meeting, so.
Right.
I've been known to attend those from time to time.
So I think it would be what you.
Okay. All right, well, why don't we'll think about that, and we'll come up with a way to, I I think it's important to keep the board kind of apprised. I don't necessarily want to do, you know, you're basically talking about spreading that out over 5 months by the time we're done with it. And then send it all over to the board at once, and then have, you know, a problem with something that we've dealt with, you know, on month
I would
one,
do it
so
in
then we're
stages.
coming back to it, you know, having to revisit the whole thing that's not fresh. Like, do it, you know, having to revisit the whole thing that's not fresh, I guess, is what my concern would be there.
Yeah, so you could draft proposed changes for each month to add to the board packet, and if you're not in attendance as liaison, I can communicate.
So we basically, the way we're breaking the ordinance up, we could send the board just the sections you guys discussed.
Sure.
With the changes, et cetera, so that can be done. So board
I think
comments.
that kind of makes more sense to me. That way, if it does come back with a ton of board concern over one issue, we're not 6 months later having to go back and, you know, rehash, you know, from square zero at that point.
So then I could get with you before the next scheduled meeting, if we need to address it on the agenda, and then I can bring the specifics to the liaison.
Yep. I think that's the way to handle that myself. I mean, obviously, we won't have anything for them until the November meeting anyway. But- All right, do any of the other commissioners have any questions about like that kind of process there, basically? So again, just to clarify, we're gonna do it in 4 parts: districts and permitted uses, you know, part number 1, you know, dimensional requirements and setbacks, part number 2, site design aspects within the zoning ordinance, number 3, and then, you know, our processes, specifically, you know, the site plan review and stuff like that. Just making sure that they're in line with what we're accustomed to doing. I'm sure that they look very similar. And from my first read of it, they look very similar. So,
I mean, that's fair. The state requires so much.
Sure.
There's not a lot of creativity there.
Right.
The one thing I should mention, or a couple things, I guess. One is that this current draft, we do need to make sure that your marijuana ordinance is consistent with it, and it's consistent with your marijuana ordinance. And McKenna will get into that over the next month.
Okay.
So that will be part of that districts and uses discussion.
Okay.
And the second thing is that I think some of you have met my colleague Kyle Lucha.
Yes, we have.
And he's been to some events as part of the master plan process. He will be helping out with this process as well.
Okay.
And that will allow you guys, we can ensure continuity of service on those dates if I'm not available or something like that. So he'll be at the next meeting with me, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. And we do not have we will set the dates for the next, for 2024 at our November meeting.
Okay. Are we anticipating that they'll be 4th Tuesdays?
Yes.
I'm gonna pencil those dates in.
Yeah.
My calendar.
I mean, I guess, we reserve the right to meet what we want, but that's always traditionally what we've done, so I see no reason to change that. Okay. Any other discussion about that, guys? This time? We've got homework, first time in a long time. Exciting. Okay, next on the agenda is public comment time. This can be about anything you want. I know we had someone that wanted to ask another question.
Metzger, right?
And we're opening that up at 8:03.
My question is, this grow greenhouse they want to add, I thought they had permission to do, they had permission to do 14 acres. So is this greenhouse gonna be part of that 14, or is that an addition?
Technically, we don't engage at the public comment, but I will make a point to answer your question during my commissioner time.
Okay. And then again, I just wanna bring out to you that I feel since you allowed this farm here, that it is your, duty to make sure that the smell out there gets under control. I don't know if any of you live within a mile of that place, but, you know, if I could catch 6 dead skunks and bring them to your backyard every night, how would you like that?
Thank you. Is there any other public comment at this time about anything you want?
Hello, I'm Mike Little. So, you all have a tough job, and, you know, this decisions, like you made, as far as the changes that go on in the township, those are things that are important that you do, but there's also, it's accountability. We have all of you people within this township who really have a duty to make sure that checks and balances in all the different departments, that's why we have different departments and different groups, to hold accountable each other. And so we have a member that's on the board that does not live in the township, that openly admitted he does not live in the township. Now, how he claims that Seth approved him not living in the township is what he claimed at the last meeting, which Seth was still here. But he doesn't. We know that he doesn't. We have evidence and evidence and evidence, which him even admitted it himself. So it really falls on each and every one of you as a gut check, as an opportunity to see what you're truly made of. And that goes for our superintendent as well. Because it's unfair to every single resident that we have someone who is not a resident. Doesn't matter if you own property. We have multiple people that own properties in our township that live out of this state of Michigan. Now, would it be just for them, because they're wealthy and able, to fly back every month for the township meeting, that they're okay because they own properties and business and things in our township? That's literally what we were told. So every one of you that stays silent, that falls on you. It does. So it is a gut check. Are you going to do the right thing for the people? You all take an oath. That oath is to the Constitution of Michigan and of the United States. She never started at 3 minutes, by the way, so I can keep talking forever.
If you could abide by the rule.
But I don't know how long it's been now. It's been over 3 minutes. I'm pretty confident.
But give you some extra time if you'd like.
This is what I've been saying to every board that I've been going to, because guess what? It's not just here in our township that we have things that are wrongdoing that needs to be handled and exposed and gotten rid of. And it's up to you all in these positions to stop it. That's what it comes down to. Because if you all do not speak out for the people like you should, we're going to continue to have worse and worse corruption happening in our communities. It can't be any more obvious and blatant that wrongdoing has happened based on the laws and the situation and the evidence that's been shared. So I urge you all to please do the right thing.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Walker. Is there any other public comment? If you got anything you'd like?
Speak back on the situation with zoning, I guess. You guys are going to be discussing that. I just want to bring that up because, like setbacks and other stuff like that, which is going to the setbacks and specifically lot width or something. So, and I guess I'm giving a fruition to this situation, but I'm probably going to run an issue and probably have to do variance on a specific parcel that I'm trying to subdivide for, I guess, issues with the first parcel itself. And I don't know if you guys plan on adjusting lot widths
there any other public comment tonight? Seeing none, we'll close that at 8:10. Last item on the agenda is planning commission member time. Claudia, do you have anything you'd like to add tonight?
I do not. Thank you.
Barb?
I,
Shirley?
No.
Kevin?
No.
Trustee Greenwood?
Ms. Metzger has brought up twice, and I'm aware that this was an issue before regarding the odor. I think there's been significant concern. The zoning administrator's job is twofold in that they handle all of the applications, but I think Mr. McKinley, it would be important to address the enforcement side of that and what that would look like with a new hire.
Will do.
Anything else?
No.
So, I guess just to piggyback off Trustee Greenwood's comments there, like, there are mechanisms in place that we are, supposed to, be able to, go and do checks and, make sure that they're adhering to the conditions that are either set forth during an application process or just the general standards in our ordinance. Obviously, as Trustee Greenwood stated there, we're hiring another new person. That will certainly be more of a focus for the township moving forward, is, monitoring that kind of stuff and whatnot, so. And as far as the odor goes and the concerns there, you heard them talk a little bit about that tonight. I'm sure that probably is unsatisfactory to you, and I can understand that. The only thing I can tell you is that, we are gonna, we're working on addressing that with them in their use permit, some form of odor mitigation, something going on. And I think obviously it's pretty clear tonight that there's nothing going on, and that's, something we need to work on.
So, I'm sorry, were you going to address the greenhouse?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm unaware, and you'd reference, I guess, the 14 acre, if it was included or not. We will certainly look into that, I guess. But my understanding is that use permit, it was for the entire 95 acre parcel. And
Can I comment to that?
sure, yeah, why not?
So I do know that when they were given the permit 2.5 years ago, we asked the commissioners, they were on the phone at that time, if they were gonna be allowed to get any bigger, and I heard them say no. We only have so many permits in this township, and they will not be allowed to grow anymore. And so I believe them.
Okay.
And I think 14 acres is stinky enough.
Sure.
And the bigger they get, the worse it's gonna get.
May I clarify on that?
Okay.
When we had the meeting, we were discussing the outdoor crop. And in this case, they submitted a conditional use application, so you're actually changing that to indoor grow, which is different. So we were originally addressing the outdoor grow, and now we're addressing something completely different with a new principal building, correct?
Correct.
So.
But you still only have so many permits, or no?
The permits that they get would be state licensing permits. So they're in 3 classifications, I believe, A, B, and C. It determines how many crops they can grow per license. As far as Bedford goes, we're talking about the zoning standards. So what that looks like within the parcel, what they can do.
May I clarify something, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
If my memory serves me correctly, he said that the new greenhouse was gonna be within the boundaries of the fence.
That's what I
So
heard.
that would,
Yes.
that would take away part of the outdoor grow right now, if that's what they actually mean. Hopefully this will be cleared up when we get the new site plans and all that stuff.
So I think too, there could be some confusion based upon So, an applicant comes in and they get approved because we allow, we have an ordinance that allows that. So they meet the criteria in the ordinance to be approved. The township does not, correct me if I'm wrong here, Trustee Greenwood, we don't regulate how many licenses somebody can have. They can stack the licenses.
That's the state. Yeah, they have a state licensing.
Right, and they can stack those.
Everyone's.
Okay, so that is not necessarily something that the planning commission has any authority.
I will get clarification on
Yeah.
that for you.
Yes, we will dig down on what you, clearly is a miscommunication there as far as, we were told it was only gonna be 14 acres of grow, and obviously we're expanding, or they're already expanding well beyond that, so we'll work on getting you some clarification on that. I would encourage you also, just to wrap up my time, to come to the next meeting, because, we've continued the public hearing, to the next meeting for that, so I would encourage you to come back to that, to see how all that shakes out. Okay, and with that, I would move to adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting is Tuesday, October 24th at 6:30. 16.
Ms. Foster? Do you have a kind of contact email where you
Yeah, right, so, my advice on that first would be, I think it's gonna be phase two. Phase two will be the meeting that you're probably most interested in, where we discuss like setbacks. So, that would be, if we stay on target, that would be our November meeting. This is on the 14th at 6:30 here. So you just may wanna pop your head in on that.
Yeah.
And voice those similar concerns while we're going through that process.
Okay.
Okay?
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I mean, I don't even know anything about that, so.
I didn't even have a receipt, to be honest.
We're working through it. It's probably gonna take them a good week or 10 days to get squared away.
Gotcha, okay.
But somebody will get over it, okay? And if you don't hear from somebody, just pop back down.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, yeah. Thanks for it. Yep, I got your email.
All right, finally, no, I have to call 5 minutes since 5.
Can you handle it?
I hope so.
Wait, look at it.
I hope so. All right, Shirley, is that yours?
Hmm?
One yours?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
This one here?
Oh, it's somebody didn't use it.
Means it's time to go home. I gotta have dinner. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. See you next month.
Yep.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
I'm gonna move it. I'm not gonna put it on the floor.
I thought you were gonna do one of those things like they do on plates.
I did it.
Move it together, or you guys?
Sure, no, yes, we can do it together. How's that doing?
Shirley, don't you let go.
Yes, I'm starting to fill in some of that. Yeah, because the enterprise zone.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, wait a
There
minute.
is that.
You mean she's at
Let's see what he has.
Oh, Dennis. Here or somewhere else?
Yeah.
This, no, it's her body.
I'll see
Well, they know what they're doing. Oh, goodness,
I'm doing better at getting in there, but I think it's because I got it.
How about like
And it always
that?
takes me together.
I don't know.
Yeah. So
Should I do it? No,
Put your
okay.
tab in. That doesn't fit.
I'm thinking, whoa,
It's not
All right.
I'm getting better, but I wasn't sure about the other one that if we needed to put them in our minutes, but thank you. It looks right.
Was that safe?
No, we're not.
Future
What about
language.
this one? Didn't you
Oh,
guys
that's
hold this
easy.
one?
Yes, yeah.
Is the zoning office still open then?
No. Nancy?
Where does this extra water go?
Those for you, big guy.
Which one? That one. Oh, this one.
Ready? In the cabinet there or?
It's not the responsibility of the planning commission to govern their people, but that's not.
Sure does, right?
Land use.
Land use, thank you. Thank you.
Well, I really like Gordon's idea.
All right, guys, thank you very much. I know that was a long meeting.
Yes, but I like that idea of the commercial.
We do what we have to do.
Out there.
Yeah, oh,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah, I really like
Definitely
that.
so.
Yes, I thought that's great. We need enterprise. Grocery store down there would be great.
It would be, they could use that there in that
I
area.
guess
I don't know
I'll
about
have
a
to-
C-store, but bring
I'll
something
have
else.
to review my,
Hmm?
I'll have to review what's the difference between a mixed use and an enterprise.
Yeah, me too, because I mean, as long as I've been there and commercial, they're also, yeah, I hear you, I gotta do the same thing.
But that's what this book is for, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna go to the bathroom before I go, cause I'm not sure I can reach it
So
home.
we put this on somebody's desk, right?
What's that? Our attendance?
Mhm.
It should go in there with Joyce, or put it in her basket that's on her door.
Okay,
Okay, if nobody has the key to go in, you could just put it on that basket.
okay. Thank you, dear.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, guys. See you.
Correct.
you know, that lazy about, well, I understand because I don't like the smell of it when I come into the office here or when I'm at the grocery store.
You remember when
I hate
we
that.
had evolution and we had those like hazmat suits?
Yes, yes.